Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode DM on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to us by one of our brother and our sister. Translated it for us, and it reads like this. Hello, how are you? African Confessions. Hello, South Africa. I am here because I have my own confession that I want to share with you guys. So this is what I did. I will change the years and I will say that it happened in the year 2021, even though it did not happen in that year. So I was sent to Limpopo, where I was sent as an undercover auditor for Sassa, and I was sent there because there were massive irregularities, ghost beneficiaries, as well as redirected funds, and a lot of money that was disappearing, and we were supposed to find out what was really going on. So I was supposed to go there to just act as if I was there to work, but my work was to investigate and to see what was really going on and to report back to the auditor's office. So I would move from office to office collecting digital fingerprints of different people that were clerks. So there was one woman in particular named Mavis, not her real name. She had been bleeding our system for a number of years. She was not the only one. This was the time when we started to tighten up Sassa so that people do not benefit where they were not supposed to benefit, because there were a lot of people that would open ghost accounts and then they would get paid. They would pay themselves using those same ghost account. I did my job and I filed the report because it was much easier, because these people, they were reckless in their doing and it was easy to trace everything back to them. So I can say when I started working, it only took me about 48 hours of auditing in order for me to find what was broken in the system. So this woman whom I named Mavis, she was fired and she was blacklisted from getting any government position ever again. So I felt like a hero, because ever since I started at university, what I wanted in life was to make sure that I protect the taxpayers' money. That was all that I wanted. So I thought that nobody knew that I was the one that pulled the trigger, because we had been moving from one province to another. We did not do this only in Limpopo. It was a wave. We wanted to stop this rot that was happening at Sassa. So after I had reported back when she had lost a job, I said, I'm done here. I was supposed to move to another department as well. But when I was still in Limpopo, these were my last days in Limpopo working. I was supposed to return back to Pretoria, and it was towards holidays. So I had been told by my superior that I was just supposed to continue working in Limpopo, then come back home for the holidays. Then after the holidays, we were supposed to be briefed, because we were supposed to go to another province, me and the other two women that I was working with. So on the last day, when I was in Tzaneen, I had gone there to Tzaneen. Then as I was driving to this other office, that was when I met an elderly woman. She had been waiting for me at the gate of that department where I wanted to go to this other office. There was someone that I was supposed to speak with. I was supposed to have a meeting. So an elderly woman, she was already waiting for me. How she had known that it was I that had gotten her daughter fired, it was a mystery until I had gone to consult, even though I am a Christian. But things got so bad, so much that I had no choice but to go and to consult. This woman, when I stopped, because she literally stopped in front of my car, and then she came to my window, and then I rolled down and I asked him who she was, and then she said to me that she was Mavis' mother. When she said that, I felt nervous, and then she simply walked away. She just said, "I am Mavis' mother." Then she started walking away. There was traffic that was building behind me, and even my legs, they did not want to work anymore. It was as if I was getting paralyzed. That was when she turned around. She walked so fast towards my car, and she did not even seem as if she was angry. I'm pretty sure that people that were behind me, they thought that maybe I knew this woman. She was quite old, and then she returned back and she looked at me directly into my soul, and then she was like, "So you are the one that has taken the bread from my daughter's plate. You think that your job is done? Congratulations. Thank you very much. From today, you will know me very well. You will carry what you have done back to your own house." That was when I felt that the paralysis that had gotten over my legs was removed, and I was able to drive, and I parked my car. Throughout the meeting, I could not even concentrate. I had lost track even of time. I was feeling nauseous and I was feeling dizzy. After the meeting, the moment that I got into my vehicle, I vomited on myself, Brother Nashi. And then that was when I returned back into the place where I was staying. I just laughed it off when this woman threatened me. I said, "I went to school, I have a degree, I have a good job," and I thought that maybe they were going to hire a hitman for me. So I said, "In Pretoria, I am living in a gated complex, 24-hour security. There is no way that these people can be successful. I just need to be careful when I am at work, but at home my family is very safe." So I returned back to Pretoria, listening to podcasts, and then that was when I started to feel as if there was someone behind me. I started feeling that there was something that was at the back seat the moment that I started to think that about that old lady whom I thought was just a bitter relative of a corrupt official. This thought, it crossed my mind when I was at Kranskop Toll Plaza. That was when I felt movement at the back seat. Lucky enough, I was not speeding. If I was speeding, I was going to have a terrible accident. I felt that there was someone that came and sat at the back seat of my car right behind me. I could even feel the knees of that person hitting hard against the seat of my car. I looked around, I did not even see anything. So I continued on my way. Since it was still in the afternoon, there was no reason for me to be scared. So I returned home for the December holidays. Everything was okay. I'm someone that is very resourceful when I am at home. So I was just fixing my place, doing stuff what I used to do every December. I'll keep myself busy if me and my wife, we were not going on a vacation. So I was on a ladder fixing a simple light fixture in my hallway. I had done it many times, but suddenly it felt like there was someone that made me to become paralyzed again by my ankles. I had this other small ladder, a 3-step ladder that I had, and it just collapsed and I fell down. But when I fell down, it was just a normal thing. Even my wife and my kids, they came and then they picked me up. But I started to scream when they tried to lift me up. I had broken my hip so bad. I went to the private hospital. I stayed there for 2 days. Private is very expensive. I had to be taken to a public hospital where I ended up staying for 6 months, and we went through surgery, and after the surgery I was not yet healed, so I kept on staying in the hospital until it was 6 months. Whilst I was in the hospital, there were dreams that I was having. I would see something that would come into that room. This thing, it was like a shadow. All that I could see was the red eyes. It would walk towards my bed. I could even hear the hissing of a snake. When I would wake up, the hospital equipment that was in my ward where I was in, I would see the hospital equipment changing from taking the shape of a human being, and it was so scary. I started to have terrible hallucinations. I did not even know what else I was supposed to do. It was not only me that was bedridden, that was facing all of these spiritual attacks. At home, my house became a war zone, and I was not there to protect my wife. My 7-year-old daughter, who had no history of illness, started having violent seizures, and my wife will take her to different doctors. I was in the hospital. My daughter also in the hospital. We took him to different doctors in Gauteng. They ran your MRIs. They found nothing. My mom, who lived with us, she began a cycle of constant hospitalization. This, I'm pretty sure that this is the first sign of you being under spiritual attack. When you are facing spiritual warfare, I think that you are always at the hospital, because they just want you to waste all of your money on the hospitals. So my daughter in the hospital, I, the father, in the hospital, and my mother in the hospital. It was so painful, I do not want to lie. My mom already, she had her own medical aid, but because of the cost of hospitalization, you could not even manage. Between the three of us, my wife and I and my mother, we maxed out our premium medical aid by June of that year. If you have never maxed out your medical aid, you do not know spiritual warfare. The financial drain, it was just too much. It was too much, so much that I had to sell my BMW just to cover some other payments. The day when I was returned back home from the hospital, my wife, she laughed at me and she said, "Oh, so you've brought your Tokoloshes from the hospital." So what happened was that there was peace at home when I was not there, even though there was spiritual warfare happening at home, but there was no physical evidence of the spiritual warfare. The night that I returned back home, it was around 7 p.m. We had cats that were walking around in the ceiling. My wife started to laugh and she said, those Tokoloshes are with you now. So every night, 7 p.m., those cats, we would hear them walking in the ceiling. Where they would get into the ceiling, we do not even know. We even hired a Zim guy who was a handyman at the complex that we were staying at. He used to come to fix our geyser, do other small jobs. He got into the ceiling. He looked everywhere to see where these cats were getting into the ceiling from, but he found no place at home. These cats, they would fight a lot, and they would fight so much that you would not sleep. They would fight for hours and hours. Even if you will say for tag, they would not go anywhere. They will only stop and then they will start again screaming all over the place. It was so scary, Brother Nashin. My wife sometimes will try to pray, but it would not even help at all. And whenever these cats would be fighting, I would feel as if my leg on the side where I had a brace in my hip, it had been dipped into a pot of boiling water. So my sister, she was a teacher and she died in a freak accident when a stationary truck's handbrake allegedly failed and rolled specifically into a parked car while she was busy loading groceries, and then her car hit her and the wheel of her car went over her stomach, crushing her to death. There was no logical explanation. It was just spiritual warfare that had targeted my system. That was the day that I stopped believing that I was just a man that was experiencing bad luck, and I started to believe that there was someone that had sent their spirits, their Tokoloshes, to haunt me. I did not want to consult, guys. I never wanted to consult with a sangoma. I ended up consulting with a sangoma, a man who came to me, and then he touched me on my forehead. Then he said, "Oh, there it is. There was a worm that was removed from my forehead," and then he burned it. He said that this was part of the spiritual warfare that had been happening. This worm that was on my forehead, it was a monitoring spirit that had been sent from Tzaneen by that woman's mother. And before that, he asked me, "What did you take from Tzaneen? Did you steal anything from someone who stays in Tzaneen?" I said, "No, I've never stolen anything from anyone." That was when he said, "But I see an old woman who is complaining to God, saying that you did something evil to her daughter. What is it? Do you have a wife that you dumped in Tzaneen?" And I said, "No." That was when it crossed my mind, and I said, "Oh, it is that woman that I got fired from Sassa." He then told me that my name was placed on an altar in a village, that place where I had gone to do my audit in Limpopo, because I had emptied her plate. She was the breadwinner. So they created an altar, and the ritual was designed to empty my plate, just like I had gotten her fired. He told me that I had been made to carry a Tokoloshe back to Gauteng, and this Tokoloshe was the one that was causing all of these misfortunes that were happening to me. That sangoma then told me that as long as this Tokoloshe remained, I was going to lose everything, and he was right. Shortly after the consultation, the government department I was working for, it restructured for no reason. Despite my clean record and my successful audits, I was the only one that was told that they were going to let me go. I was redundant. That was the email that I got. I went from being a forensic auditor to a man working a low-level job in a private sector, earning 40% of my old salary just to keep the lights on, and indeed the bread was truly gone. I am writing this, Brother Nashim, because I want other people to know that spiritual warfare, it is happening. I don't know what I was supposed to do in my situation, because this was my job, to catch corrupt officials. But yo, Limpopo, I fear you guys. I respect you. I have learned a lesson. Even if it happens that one day I return back to forensic auditing in the government, any department, I don't think that I'll ever agree to go to places like your Tzaneen for audits. I will not go there. If you are working in places where you are afraid that people will bewitch you, my brother, my sister, do your job. Because back in those days, I used to be a person that was arrogant. I saw myself as a hero. I was not a humble person. Maybe if I was doing my job with humility, knowing that even if you are catching someone that is corrupt, that person still has a job and they have a family to feed, not to be arrogant towards the person that you are about to get fired from their position. I think that maybe if I was humble, I was never going to be placed in an altar. But I also pray that if there is anyone that has an altar in their name, may God protect you and may God destroy that altar. I know what spiritual warfare is like right now. To my fellow professionals all over South Africa, just know that witchcraft, it is for real. You might be someone that is well-learned and you went to university, and you might say that you do not believe in all of that stuff, but it is for real. Witchcraft is for real. I saw it with my own eyes, and to this very day, when it gets really cold, when it is really cold, I start to feel so much pain that I can't even explain because of that brace that was put in my hip. This is my confession, Brother Nashi. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brother, and that was a translation. We were helped by one of our dear sister with a translation. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. Let us try to speak with our dear brother in the comment section. Have you ever been in a situation where you ended up getting bewitched at work because you got someone fired? If so, you can come to my inbox and then you share with us your own side of the story.